Let me tell you a story, okay? Really quick. I wasn't planning on this today, but this is one of the coolest stories in the history of Legacy Landscapes. It's 2009. I'm knocking on doors. I'm running out of work, and Greg was there, man. He was with me the whole time, and I knocked on this door, and the wife answered, and she said, "Well, yes, we really need to rebuild our deck, but my husband's not home. You need to come back." Now, I went and finished knocking on doors. Funny story. I prided myself in never double knocking on doors. Okay. I always kept track. I wrote down addresses. I forgot to write down that address. Totally forgot that she told me to come back. Double knocked on her door. She answered, gave her the same spiel, and she laughed, and she goes, "You were just here." And I was like, "Oh my God, are you serious?" Okay. I'm so sorry. She said, "Well, my husband's home. Let me get him." She gets the husband. He takes me in the backyard. Their backyard is crap. I mean, when I say crap, it was crap. Like literally the only time they went in their backyard was to mow. All right.
Okay.
And he wanted to rebuild his deck. So I go and we look at his deck. I took one step up. It was a deck that was only about 18 inches off the ground, right? One of those decks. I took one step on it. My foot went through the step and it broke. The entire deck was rotten. And he was like, "I told you it's rotten." So we started talking, and he wanted to rebuild a deck. And I was like, "Dude, on a situation like this, you don't want to rebuild a deck. You want to build a patio. That's a conversation for another day." So we started talking, blah, 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 blah. And basically we came to an agreement. Like, he's like, "Okay, yeah, let's do this." And I said, "Great." So I sold him a design, and I think the design was like $400 back then, because I gave him half off, whatever. It was awesome. And he goes, and he started to turn away around to go in the house, and he stopped and he looked at me very serious, and he pointed his finger at me. He goes, "Don't you dare come back with no $60,000 or $70,000 design or bid, because I won't spend it." And I was like, "Okay, would you spend 30?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'd spend 30. Okay. So now you got a $30,000 sale. So man, I was skipping to my truck. I was like, "Yes, I got a $30,000 sale. This is dude, I can do this. I can do this. I can design this. Like, I can do this." Right. I went on, Greg, I got one, you know, because this was 2009. I was just starting to knock on doors, and I was selling work, but I hadn't really sold a big job yet knocking on doors. Right. We were just, getting little bits here and there. So I was all excited. Greg was excited. I go home, I design it. Dude, it came in at $33,000, right? He was going to get a brand new patio, really good sized patio. And I was taking out his entire backyard, and we were just going to redo the grass, redo the sprinklers, put in some nice beds. It was going to be a nice backyard.
Yeah.
I was excited.
Yeah.
Now, in the conversation, his dad had just passed away, right? And his dad left him or bought him this little water feature. Okay. And he said, "Look, man, it's important to me. I need you to design that water feature." And it's just a little stupid fountain bubble feature, right? It's like not a big deal. So I designed that little bubble feature I drew a curved patio, and I put that little bubble feature right in the crest, the curve of the patio. So I did, I set up the appointment. We went to his house. I have the design ready to go, and we're looking at it. And I had the bid, and he's actually excited, right? Like, dude, this is going awesome. So he's excited, and he's like, "This is great." He goes, "How much is it?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's only $33,000. We're right where you said you wanted to be." And he sat back with a big old smile, and he was like, that's great. Well, his daughter happened to be home from college. So she just came down the stairs, walked into the room, looks at the design. He's like, "Look what we're going to do." And she looked at it, and she's like, "Oh, you're putting in a fire pit?" And he goes, "No, we're not putting in a fire pit." And he goes, "What do you mean?" And she pointed to that little fountain, and she said, "Isn't that a fire pit?" And he goes, No, that's a water feature. Hey, do you put in fire pits?" "Oh, do we put in fire pits?" I was like, "Yeah, we put fire pits in. Yeah. Would you like one?" He's like, "Well, where would you put it?" And I was like, "Oh, dude, we could actually like step it down and build you like a little pit, like in the ground." "Are you serious? What do you do about water?" So we start talking about that, right? Then his wife looks at me, and she goes, "Well, we've been thinking about getting a swim spa. Could you put in a swim spa?" And I was like, "Whoa, what do you think about doing a swimmable water feature?" And he gets a big old smile on his face, and he's like, "Oh, That sounds awesome. Now I'm excited, but I'm kind of pissed because I needed to sell this job, right? And so now we're talking about a fire pit, we're talking about a water feature, and they now want to extend their patio because they want to do a water feature. But if they're going to do a water feature, they want to buy a hot tub. So now I have to go back to the drawing board. I redesign this thing. Now it's blown up, right? Now it's this huge water feature. They want it swimmable, a freaking fire pit. And then I had to extend the patio. And what was so funny is he looked at me, and originally he said, don't give me no $60,000, $70,000 bid because I won't spend it. And he was right. He didn't spend 60 or 70, he spent $130,000 on that project.
Wow. Interesting.